Steve Bannon, the political operative who many consider the mastermind behind the election of Donald Trump, was ousted from his post as White House chief strategist. But Bannon, and more importantly his influence, didn't just go away. This past year, Bannon has been popping up across Europe, throwing his support behind nationalist parties who are now having historic successes. We sent Michael Moynihan to Europe to see how this global nationalist movement is changing the face of the continent's politics.
Sverige och svenskarna är inte hets mot folkgrupp. Det är sunt förnuft.
So we're in the center of Stockholm a couple of days before the election, and there's a far-right rally over here, which has been canceled by the government, but they showed up anyway, and a lot of angry protesters, and more police than I've ever seen in one place in Stockholm. The overlap of all the people here and the Trump agenda, people talking about Trump on stage, wearing Trump hats, using Trump slogans everywhere. I mean, this is kind of the Swedish mirroring of the alt-right, and they love Donald Trump.
I just love that person. Isn't he a high-energy person? I think so. I really think so. Oh, we love Trump. Vi är alternativ för Sverige.
Och Trump har nu en helt ny, men att drain the swamp, det kommer att ta jättelång tid, men han håller på och precis samma ska vi göra det här i Sverige. I Sverige så han ju skriver vad sig skit. Jag läser att det är vanliga media. Det är fake news.
When I see the kids, I put this on your dad's car. That's what I usually say.
You're looking around for kids to give Donald Trump re-election stickers to. You literally have no idea what's going on.
They just want some change, and any change almost, actually, because they got to stop the mass immigration, and Trump brings about that change.
We will recapture Europe, and we will drive out the Islamic invaders. Hail victory!
This fringe group of Trump fanatics have little political power, but they think Sweden is trending towards their worldview. For more than 100 years, politics have been dominated by the left-wing Social Democrats. But the far-right Sweden Democrats have grown dramatically over the past decade, becoming the country's third largest party. It caught the eye of Steve Bannon, who told a Swedish newspaper that he, quote, studied the Sweden Democrats and was inspired by their transformation from pariahs to political kingmakers under the leadership of the boyish Jimmy Åkesson.
Sverige behöver andrum. Är man inte beredd att anpassa sig till vårt land, då ska man inte bo i Sverige. Då får man bo i ett annat land.
They're not the normal kind of anti-immigrant party. They have the roots in the neo-Nazi movement in Sweden. So people didn't really expect them, and I didn't expect them to grow that explosively in Sweden. They are not a Nazi party, but they are the party of Nazis.
I mean, how do they exist on the Swedish political spectrum?
So it seems like we've got generally polarization along a new kind of dimension.
That's the story here, is polarization.
That's the big story, and not a left-right polarization, because it's not really economical issues. It used to be that everything was about taxes or socializing Swedish businesses. And then migration, national identity, culture. We didn't care about that in Sweden. But that is what is going on right now with the Bannonization of politics.
This is an old Swedish political tradition. The day before the election, all the parties get together and hand out their materials. People can talk to them about their positions. But the Sweden Democrats is pretty much the focus of all the attention in this election. That word, våldtäktsmän, just means rapists. So the implication being, if you vote for them, they will make Sweden secure and they will prevent rape, so, which they associate primarily with immigrants.
Sweden's liberal immigration policy has become increasingly controversial. This nation of 9.5 million people took in 163,000 migrants in 2015, the highest per capita rate ever recorded in the EU. When a rejected asylum seeker carried out a terror attack 2 years later, anti-immigration forces pounced. Breitbart News, where Bannon was once editor, has published more than 400 articles on Sweden since. On election day, we asked Mattias Karlsson, the Sweden Democrats' second-in-command, why the world's gaze was fixed on Sweden.
People are kind of obsessed with this election outside of Sweden. Why do you think that is?
I think Sweden has become like a battleground and a symbol for both the left and the right, because Sweden has been viewed as some kind of left liberal utopia, and now the starting to be the cracks in the image, and conservatives have all over the world has pointed to this and said, look, this is how bad it can get if you let the left and the liberals rule too much, because everybody knows that the rise in many of these crimes are connected to immigrant gangs.
I mean, do you see any kind of parallels between what's happening here and what's happening in the U.S.?
Ordinary working class people are feeling, they're feeling not at home anymore in their own country. They don't feel that the elites are representing them or defending their interests. So they want to see something new. I am one of those people who feel that my identity is slowly being taken away from me and my sense of home is disappearing. And I can really relate to those people who vote for me, who feel the same.
So the polls close in the Swedish elections in about an hour, and when that happens, everyone gets together and gets drunk and celebrates their victory or has some mournful time about their loss.
The Sweden Democrat Party was teeming with supporters, foreign journalists, and excited political pilgrims who had come to watch left-wing Sweden lurch to the right.
If we will not unite, I mean conservatives, Europe is gone. Christian history and culture, this is who we are. It's just madness. It's the cancer of 21st century.
SD racked up victories in areas traditionally held by the Social Democrats. And while it was just shy of becoming Sweden's second largest party, SD saw a significant increase in support, winning 13 new seats in parliament.
You know, it's pretty surprising. If you had told me 10 years ago that Sweden would have a populist right-wing party that has 18% of the vote, almost a fifth of the voters, I would have said you were crazy. Because things have really changed in Sweden.
Sweden's political shift mirrors a larger populist trend. Bannon has been on a never-ending Euro trip, supporting far-right parties across the continent, and he's preparing for a long war. To be waged from a 13th century abbey in Calapardo, Italy. Benjamin Harnwell is the founder of the Catholic think tank Dignitatis Humanae Institute, a conservative order that took over the monastery last year.
What is it that you're doing here? I mean, politically, not religiously.
We're setting up this academy called the Academy for the Judeo-Christian West, which is a vehicle to defend and promote the Judeo-Christian foundations of Western civilization. Steve Bannon's a principal part in that.
The goal here for teaching people here is to get them out into the political system, to have them change the system, and what is it?
First and foremost, to let people know that they can be an actor in their own destiny once again. Secondly, to help prepare the narrative on which that fight is going to take place.
Is Steve going to be a part of that academy?
Yeah. In Steve's 2014 Vatican speech, he mentions three things which are the great threats to Western civilization, yeah? Radical jihadi terrorism on the outside, militant secularism on the inside, and a distorted form of capitalism.
We're at the very beginning stages of a global conflict, in that if we do not bind together as partners with others in other countries, that this conflict is only going to metastasize. They have a Twitter account up today, ISIS does, about turning the United States into a river of blood if it comes in and...
Here's why Steve's insight is that when you have this international nationalist movement, you get the sense behind you that you're actually now on the side of history. You're actually now on the side that destiny's moving in. You get the feeling, that there is really a global change now. These are all different nationalists focusing on their own countries, working together on an international level.
Like Sweden, in the past several years, Italy has received historic numbers of economic migrants and political refugees. In the city of Macerata, 3 Nigerian migrants were arrested for the murder of 18-year-old Italian Pamela Mastropietro. A local far-right activist responded by shooting 6 African migrants at random.
Despite the fact that you got shot in Italy, it's still safer here.
Ja ani Malia Mali estudiata nyona parce que nyanga ndolo ga mbori kana ja ga folo abi janne kana ngal feteluma me nyingata ima femba to ndolo safono jani Mali be muklinti.
Matteo Salvini, the Trump-like leader of the populist far-right party The League, used the murder to agitate on social media. These online campaigns would help propel him into government as Italy's powerful interior minister. Since the migration crisis began, Italy has undergone dramatic political realignments. The League now governs in coalition with the populist far-left party, the Five Star Movement.
The Italian government, which formed in June, is a rather odd coalition of far-left populists and far-right populists. This is kind of the fantasy of American political strategist Steve Bannon, who is here for the victory and here consulting with both of the parties. It's a melding of what he always wanted, the Bernie Sanders left and the Donald Trump right, both populists from different poles together in one big coalition.
We went to the Hotel Raphael, where Bannon stays when he's in Rome, and sat down for pizza with Marcello Foa, a far-right journalist newly installed as the head of Italian state television, and Armando Siri, Salvini's economic guru. When Bannon visited Rome ahead of the election, he paid Siri and Foa a visit.
Tell me a little something about that meeting, what that was like.
È una persona molto curiosa. Abbiamo avuto una lunga conversazione, abbiamo condiviso dei punti comuni riguardo il tema dell'eccessiva globalizzazione, del ritorno alla centralità dell'uomo come missione finale della politica.
Why is he so interested in Italy?
The unthinkable happened. The unthinkable was that 2 so-called populist parties could win the elections and could run the country together.
Il tema vero è che le categorie destra-sinistra non esistono più. Poteva categorizzare fine del Novecento. Oggi categorizzare è un errore.
He sees Italy as the first big country that really voted against the establishment, which is, in fact, and he's right, this is historical. Huh? And of course, he believes that from Italy can start a larger Euro revolution that can change the face of the European Union.
Earlier this year, to help that revolution along, Bannon founded The Movement, an organization whose stated aim is uniting Europe's disparate populist parties.
So Steve Bannon started the movement with a right-wing Belgian politician named Michael Madrikaman, and they're running the entire operation out of this rather opulent house in the suburbs of Brussels. What is the movement?
The movement is first a club where we will put under the same tent, okay, like-minded leaders from all over the world, to see that we are not alone and to be able eventually to help each other, like polling, social network strategy will try to help national movement to develop whenever they ask for it.
Trumpism is the dominant political ideology in America. Is that kind of one of the things that you hope to achieve with the movement?
The initial idea was eventually that Trump would bring his official support, and ultimately I hope he'll be part of it.
He himself?
Yeah, why not? For every populist leader, it's not easy. At a certain stage, you say, we have to do it. Certainly, Mr. Salvini has become an icon all over the world because of action. And he just proved with his action, closing the harbors, that it was possible to stop the invasion of Europe by the migrants. So it's action. Same with Orban. He closed also the borders, also from these migrations, and also is fighting for the Christian values. And so I think it is indeed a big battle prevailing for the soul of Western civilization, because this feeling of alienation from the ordinary citizen is deep, very deep.